Hello everyone, welcome to one more episode of Banda Kashavit International. Today we have Igor with us. Hi Igor, how are you?
Good morning, Rocco. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys.
Today Igor and I have first game of the finals. The Florida Panthers are in the finals for the NHL, so we are gonna support at least one of our teams going in the final. But today we are here to talk about the team that didn't get in the final, which is AC Milan, and the last game of the season. So tomorrow on Sunday, actually at 9 a.m. Eastern time, we are going to play against Verona, and a game that really doesn't mean much for us. It means a lot more for Verona fighting for relegation, but there is a lot more to come for AC Milan for the transfer market. And today I would like to start actually there, right? Because AC Milan has the following needs for the next season. We need a sub for Liao, which, by the way, I will check, but I think that Liao is currently being waited in Casa Milan for the renewal of the contract.
No,
So
no,
this is,
he's there. He's there.
yeah,
I already
right.
saw the video. I'm excited about that. Happy.
So perfect. Oh, now just needs to sign. So hopefully during the live we're gonna be receiving the news of Liao renewing. Then we need a striker or two strikers, depending on how many we will need. We need somebody on the right wing. We need the trequartista, and probably we need a sub for the trequartista, and we need two defensive midfielders because we are left with two, Pobega and Benacer injured. So there is a lot to do on the market, and as far as we can tell, AC Milan is trying to combine free agents with buying players, right? As of now, and there is nothing that has been signed yet, they're talking about Kamada being one of the players that AC Milan is going to sign. Loftus Cheek is another player that will basically most likely join the team. People are rumoring about the signing of El Sharawi on the left. But all in all, the strategy seems to be pretty clear what they're trying to do. Now, Igor, how do you see this strategy from AC Milan from a standpoint of mixing up these two free agents and some of the players that like cost some money to try to fill all of these roles, which is a lot of players to buy for a season?
Yeah. And you left out the left back, the
Oh yeah, the
substitute.
left back. But left
Uh,
back, worst case scenario, you keep Mr. Ballo, and
so
is
yeah,
but also the left back could be something you would need help
yeah.
with.
So I mean, it is a worst case scenario to face another season with Baloture as a substitute, which I don't hate him as a player. I really don't think he's that awful, but honestly, there's room for improvement. I think the players like El Sharawi and players that are gonna help you um, for free. They're fundamental, especially when you have a rumored budget of $70 million or euro. Um, you have to sell some players, and there's a lot of fat to be trimmed in this squad. We all know their names. We don't need to go over them. It's it's the usual suspects. I do have a bunch of players in mind. My limitation is I look a lot. I only watch Serie A, so honestly, I look at players like Bulaidia. I look at players like Arnautovic. I look at players like Beto for that striker position. Right, they're not going to be extra expensive. I think a manageable amount of money. But if you want to fill so many roles, which you realistically need to, I think you need to prioritize and make investments in some area. I don't think we should be making any more investments in the central attacking midfielder. We've already purchased Adli, which we all know what happened, but that was like 8 million plus salary. We already purchased the Ketelare. We know how that's going. That's 35 million plus salary. So how much money are you going to still keep pumping into one position? I think that to some degree it should be the Ketelares here to either put up or shut up, and if they're gonna put him in that position, or if I've heard that they might put him in the right wing or they might put him as a striker. I don't know. Whatever it is they do, I just think that what we need is a clear strategy, a clear plan. I like the Terrachano potential signing. No, not Terrachano. My bad. It's Portiello. Uh,
Sportiello is pretty much
yeah.
signed already. Yeah,
No, no. That's. I think that's smart team building because seriously, you can't expect to spend 20 to 30 million on each position, and
yeah,
especially you have Magnan, who's a top three goalkeeper in the world. You only have to make that gap between your starter and your sub a little smaller. You can't have two Magnans, obviously. So I like Sportiello. I think it's a fine move. He's not a star, but he's not Tatarusano.
yeah. No, and I mean, like we were talking with Andrea today. We have our little internal chats, and we were kind of thinking that potentially the Kedelar, it could be playing in two positions. One of them could be a striker, which needs to develop the smartness yet to play as a striker. But we were comparing his potential to some sort of a more physical Ilicic. Ilicic really reminds us of the Cadler. It just needs to develop in that place. But technically, the Cadler, if you notice, he has one thing that he does very well. Also, now that he doesn't play very well, he has a very short legs compared to his height. So the Cadler turns very fast when he gets the ball, and usually he dribbles the defender when he does that. So we were thinking, like, if you train that player to make that dribble to create that numerical advantage, because that dribble really puts you one more man forward. He could be a very interesting player for the two in the midfield because he has the pass, he has a long pass, and with that dribbling, who he reminded us of potentially? Of something that Pirlo used to do. Pirlo used to have a very good turnaround, and every time he did that, he jumped the man, he dribbled the man, creating numerical advantage for the team. So it's kind of, we see the potential, but in the wrong position right now. And potentially could be very good both as a striker and in that position if somebody has the vision to see that. And after Andrea mentioned the one for the midfielder, I was like, I think you're right. Yes, the pass, yes, the dribbling, and you can always work the game, the in-game play.
Right, right. Yeah, you guys. What you're saying is that he has a very low center of gravity,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
gonna help his post game. He can protect the ball well. I think that, and he has been gaining a lot of weight, good weight. So when he came to Milan, I was surprised about how skinny he was. He
Yeah,
reminded me of Castillejo. Remember
yeah.
that picture of Castillejo where he just looks like oh
A,
my god,
a
somebody feed
sticky, a stick man, right?
yeah, somebody feed this man a sandwich or something. Get him some sopressata over there because he looked like he could use a meal. And the Ketelare reminded me of that. And he's been gaining weight, but whatever it is they do with him, like I think we need. I'm, I may be in the minority in this, but I'm happy that Brahim Diaz is leaving.
No,
Uh,
but MDX needs to leave because you cannot leave the toy with somebody that keeps using it the wrong way.
right, right. So that in that sense, I think we need to give him the time for whatever it's worth. If we need to sell him next year, that's fine. We're talking about the Catalana now. Whatever it is we need to do with that player, we need to make a decision next year. And if my man crush player actually does come to Milan, Milinkovic Savic, which has been rumors in the press. I don't know, it's the press. We never know if it's gonna happen. We never know. We always have to take these rumors with a grain of
Yeah.
salt. If we don't like the player, then it's fine. You don't have to freak out or anything. If you do like the player, don't get your hopes up because it's usually it's
Yeah.
tricky. So if we get that kind of signing, which I think would be basic, would I think it would send us to, like, I think, to be the number one favorite for to win the Serie A. That's how big of a signing that
I
I think.
agree. No, I agree
So
with you.
I'm excited about that. And like I said, like there's tons of players that you can. I think an El Shaarawy signing would be amazing, if especially if
Oh,
he comes
that
in
would
for
be
free.
perfect. For
I
free on the left, man, that would be great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, well, uh, me rescaldata ministro, blah 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 blah. No, like this is not. This is getting a player who's in his early 30s for free, who it's gonna give you a lot. So and that position we don't have anybody.
Yeah,
So
and you need
I think
somebody.
yeah, absolutely. So that's where I would put the money. Me, I would put it on a right winger because you can't have the left wing $150 million player, and then you have a 3 million scrub on the right side.
I
That's
agree. That's
that's
too much of a disbalance.
it's too easy for defensive coaches to say, well, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna double or triple Leao and ask them to beat me on the right wing. You know what? Beat me with Messias. Beat me with Salamakers. Show me you can do that. And what ends up happening is what we keep seeing week in and week out against Cremonese, against Empoli, against Salernitana. It's 1-1, 0-0, 1-1. And that's where I could get away with signing somebody like Arnautovic or like Beto or Cabral, any of these guys, just getting service from Leao and another good right winger. I think you can get away with that.
No, I do agree with you. And one thing that makes me hope for the best for the next season is that I have a feeling that they are starting to use data to buy players. And I wanted to share a few things with you, a few, I wouldn't call them slide, maybe statistics. But let me start here. Let me know if you see my
Yes.
screen. This is Chalanoglu. Let me remove the ad.
Yeah.
Chalanoglu, this is how he plays. These are his average positions where he touches the ball. As you can see, attacks and defend, right?
Yes.
This is the kind of player that we sold or we lost. But let's look at Kessier, the year he played for AC Milan. This year he didn't play much.
Yeah.
You can see the similar trend, right?
Right.
Now, let me show you something else. This is Brahim Diaz.
Oh no.
This is Brahim Diaz, and as you can see here, no matter where I go with the seasons, he never defends. Last year he played more all over the pitch. This year he literally focused on the right. But clearly, the moment we compare it with this, there is no comparison, right? Particularly
No.
when we put Chalanoglu, which really was the ideal for that position for AC Milan. But let me show you one other player of AC Milan. This is Adli, Ligan. I selected Ligan because he didn't play this year. As you can see here, still lacking that defense and attack. So basically, the moment you're gonna play with Yasin Ali, you're going to lack that defense as well because it's obvious here. You can see that in his style of play. So clearly, this is something that is the guy is still working on. But I don't know if you've done your research. I'm gonna show you Kamada.
Okay.
Look at Kamada. This is exactly
Yeah, it's Adli all
what
over again.
Chalanoglu is a copycat of Chalanoglu. So to me, this is not a player that bought because he was available for free. This player was bought looking exactly at what he can contribute in terms of playing style. This is more the AC Milan we have seen 2 years ago rather than this year. And that makes me think that we are moving in the right direction as far as it goes to picking the right players. What do you
So
think about that?
so I think what you're saying, without saying it, is that the signing of Daichi Kamada would negate the arrival of Sergei Milinkovic Savic.
No, no, no. Milinkovic Savic will play in the two midfielders most likely if Kamada arrives, right? What I'm saying is that if you look at the position Kamada plays in, where he touches
Right,
the
right.
ball, it's very similar to what AC Milan did with
Yeah,
Kessié and
yeah.
Chalanoglu
Right.
and what didn't do with Brahim Diaz. So
Well,
AC Milan understood that this is the style of player they need, and they
yes,
went and found a player whose characteristics
right.
are very similar to Shalanoglu.
Yeah,
Technical player that defends,
yeah,
that can also play in the two midfielders. I think this was something they did research on, and they didn't just buy a player just because they like the
yeah.
player.
Yeah. Because if I don't need to see the Ketelares heat map. I think everybody has seen it online
The
already.
Cadler is either on the
It's
left or
so
the right.
different. It's so different, and it's very wing oriented. And I don't know how close we are to signing this player. I think it's really, really close. This Kamala kid. I think he would be a great signing. He does need to beef up a little bit. I've seen him. He's a little light, but Asian players from that region of the planet tend to be a little skinny.
One of the reasons why they're probably trying to buy him in June, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited about this signing, and he comes in for free. Uh, I think the more players you can get like this, I think Pioli is gonna be really happy. And even though Pioli's not my he's not my cup of tea, he's still the coach of the team. And when everybody's happy in a team, in a company, in every scenario, the results tend to follow. I think this is a player that could make him happy. This is a player that's gonna, yeah, I think he could start a bunch of games for us and be productive.
Yeah,
Um,
what I like is that, whenever we had players that showed the kind of trend on the pitch, we always had a much better performance as a
right,
team.
right,
And I do think that this is a good news for us, because it means that they finally understood that they need to buy players that are functional for the style of play of Pioli, in my opinion.
right. And he's had Daichi Kamada has had he's had a great offensive output. He's uh, both in the Bundesliga and in European football. He has great numbers, um, especially when you look at goals and assists. So you have the whole picture. You have the
Yeah.
heat map. You have the stats. And so he's gonna be technically or potentially good on paper and on the field. So I'm excited about that signing. And sorry, it's a good way to start the market, and that's all I want from Milan.
Yeah, I
Just
think they're being smart. I have a
yeah,
feeling they're using Zelus Analytics for that,
okay.
because we tried to get an interview with the owner of Zelus Analytics, and he promised us one
Oh, I saw that.
after the summer. He said,
Okay,
right now, I'm not gonna share information. That means they're using it. It's like two
yeah,
plus two equals four.
right.
And one more thing that I wanted to brainstorm with you about is that, talking about the left wing, AC Milan has actually been linked to a very interesting talent in the MLS, Kate Caldwell. Kate
Okay,
Caldwell, under 20 for the American national team. He's a guy that is pretty tall, very technical, 19 years of age. I'm gonna actually show you the guy right now. Let me find my slide. This is Kate Caldwell. He plays for the San Jose Earthquakes. Overall, like, scored some goal. He actually just scored yesterday. As you can see, he's a left wing. No matter the year we go to, he's a left wing player. Interestingly enough, if you look at this heat map, doesn't mind defending as well, and it tends to go toward goal. It is a pretty strong tendency. 2 years in a row, same position. Uh, Milan and Juventus are linked to the guy. That seems an interesting prospect. Now, what if AC Milan is planning to buy somebody that can potentially grow behind Leao? Because let's assume that you miss out on El Sharawi, because let's be truthful, somebody might offer him a starting position, right? So he might decide
right.
to go to the team that offer him a starting position. Would you be opposed to a player that seems to have potential? And in each case, chances are he will start only a few games throughout the years.
I think with a player of this profile, like I'm gonna be honest, I've never heard of this player. But when you look at his profile, 20 years old, And I understand that him being American, it must be like an extra point especially for the owners, what they want to do with the team. It's easier to market a team in the United States if they have a young star, because they love young stars over here.
Yeah,
Um, I think that type of player you could realistically sign and loan, or something like that, because I don't think he could. Again, I've never seen him. Maybe he's the next coming of Messi. I don't know. But I think that kind of player right now, for what Milan is right now. I think Milan is a team that is in the middle of a window, of a title winning window. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's when you have players like Leao, like Teo, like Tonali, like Benacer, like Tomori, etc., Mañang, they're right now, they're in a point in their careers where I think they're growing, but they're at a point where they're prime. So I think that type of player could be interesting for the future. And like you said, I mean, El Sharawi might rather want to start, but what teams could he realistically start for? Like a Fiorentina type, a Torino type of team, something like that. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know what formations they play. I'm just saying like mid-table teams,
yeah.
something like Sassuolo. I mean, if I were El Charawi and Milan was showing interest, or say Juve, or say Inter, like I would much rather be a super sub. But this Kate Caldwell kid, yeah, I'm looking at him. He's a beast. He's 6'4", 190 pounds. I mean, if you can get him for cheap and then let him play one more year where he is at, or maybe at a Frosinone type team, some team that might give him some minutes, I think go for it. Because again, it, like we didn't mention it, but the Kama signing is going to be huge, uh, as it pertains to marketing and reaching other sources of income. As like when we had Onda, like Japan went crazy for
Well, fun fact: one of my clients, they're Japanese. They live in Japan.
okay.
And the other day I was talking to them. I was like, "Hey guys, we are really close to signing a Japanese player." I was like, "Rocco, it's all over the news. That's all they talk about."
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. So that's always good. And if the player is good, then oh my goodness, like that's even better. So I haven't heard of. I'm gonna look at him more closely, but that I would not bring that type of player to Milan right away, because I think we could do more damage with the expectations, with where the players are at right now. Uh, for what it's worth, I think maybe again, maybe the kid is already a superstar, and I apologize, but I've never heard of him.
No,
But that's what I would do.
it's just showing great potential, the guy, and he's it's like they know he's gonna do very well. Like here in the MLS, they're talking very well about him, which kind of interesting because in the MLS there are a couple of profiles that are emerging. There is another guy in this case, Napoli has showed interest for him. Yeah, this guy is a little short, but is literally dominating. Every month he makes team of like player of the month. He's called Thiago Almada. He was bought by the Atlanta United, I believe, for 14 million. Like there is
Wow.
one of the few players that has been bought by an American team. Usually they don't buy players; they like do contracts. He's been bought for 14 million, and like he keeps scoring and scoring and scoring. Like this year, he already scored 6 goals and I believe 7 assists. Last year, very similar, and he is like outstanding. That guy is a very good player. He's gonna for sure leave Atlanta United this year. Like some European teams are gonna get him, but he's a bit short. He's Argentinian actually, 22 years of age. So interesting talents are emerging from the United States, which is kind of a new thing. Usually it was a retirement place for.
Right. Well, I mean, when you see what American players are doing right now in Europe, you got Pulisic, you got Weston McKennie, you got Tyler Adams. They're starting to make a dent, and they're starting to defeat the whole um, not prototype, but prejudice that American players can't play in Europe, and it's starting to happen. And if we can get our hands on some of these players, I don't think again having American ownership will have an effect on that. And as long as they perform on the field, I don't have a problem with it. It's exciting,
Yeah.
and we need to find creative ways to fill out our squad, because we're talking about an exodus of about 10, at least 10 players.
Yeah,
And
and I mean, let's say AC Milan is gonna sell Origi most likely, Rebic, Brahim Diaz. I believe we are gonna get rid of Ibrahimovic.
Branks is not coming back. Adli, it hurts my heart because I really like Adli. I think he's such a wonderful player, and I think when you have a talent like that, I mean, all you can
I
do is
think I think he might either stay or go to on loan. I don't think they're gonna sell Adli because if at all, at least in 200 minutes showed more than the Cadillac in 1,000 minutes. It's like we need to be realistic on that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's gonna be a bit of a revolution, but it is needed. It's like we are our like forward section of the team is like not good, man. Like unfortunately, thank goodness for Giroud. If we didn't have Giroud, or if he
yeah,
even got caught a fever this year,
yeah.
God forbid getting to the fourth place.
No, Giroud has been like fundamental for us this year. Like it's not even a question. And he had a bit of a dry spell, and people were already offloading him. And I thought that, like, this is insane. Like this guy, he's 37. He's somehow, by the grace of God, stayed healthy
Yeah.
in the butcher shop that is Milan. Okay, he's managed to stay healthy, and he's actually scored some big goals for us.
A
And
lot
he's
of
on
goals too.
every yeah, and he's on every single match kit reveal,
Yeah.
because even he's and thank God we got him for 2 more years. It's He's a wonderful player, and somebody you can even, he's 37, but he's going to contribute a lot for the next 2 years, and I'm happy to have him.
And
Honestly,
Igor, like I think probably he also wants AC Milan to get a striker because he knows he cannot play every match. It's like the
definitely,
guy is
definitely,
probably begging Maldini for a good
yeah.
number
Well,
nine, right?
I've heard that Milan is um they put an option on Artur Cabral, and I know that name is not going to move the needle. But again, you need names like those for the dog days of Serie A. You need that type of player to go to, Empoli, to go to to play against a team like Spezia, and actually get you those, because they're big, they're physical. And when you play those small teams, sometimes you need to just bully them into submission. So
Sure.
I'm a big proponent of that type of signing, and we'll see what happens.
And just so you know, Igor, it's getting closer and closer to real renewal. AC Milan just posted on Twitter a surfboard,
Oh,
and they said the tide is coming. Let me
nice.
So there is a very nice surfboard with the waves coming. So that means like they probably signed and they're about to make a statement, which is like that's like one of the things that I always tell people. Whenever you feel like criticizing Cardinale, remember he renewed Benacer, he renewed Liao. They're very close to renewing Magnan. These are not easy negotiations. Like these are probably like state of the art negotiations that were made in place by the team, and that's very exciting that a guy like Liao is deciding to stay in Milan because that tells a lot about the kind of project this guy is doing. Because let's not forget, Mendes is a shark.
Yes.
He's a great agent, man. Like whether you like it or not, he's gonna do very good job for his players. If Mendes agreed for Leo to stay in Milan, there is a lot of good things coming to the team because there is no way otherwise the Leo wouldn't have found the team.
I'll say this for Jorge Mendes: if fans like you as an agent, you're probably not a good agent.
Exactly.
So that being said, I remember how I felt about the late Mino Raiola, but at the end of the day, when he unfortunately passed away so young, most of his players were very sad about it. They were mortified about it, and
Yeah, let's just say that there is a slight difference, though, at least from what I can see, right? Uh, Raiola, I felt he was focused on the money aspect of the game for his players. Mendes, with what he did for Liao, it shows me that he's also caring about the right career path of a player, because he knows that Liao doing a couple more years in Milan, if Milan doesn't become what they promised it will be, it's in each case gonna improve and he's gonna live as a better player.
yes,
Donnarumma, he should have stayed in Milan
yes,
because his growth wasn't complete and he wasn't ready to take on the responsibility of a team whose goal is not to get fourth. His
right,
goal is to win the Champions League. That's
right,
a completely different environment. So I think Liao and the people around him were good at consulting him that this was the right path for his career, which is true. Like, I'm not saying they lied to him, they absolutely were right. So I think that's like what differentiated the style of work of that man, of that like
right,
agent.
right. But he got his clients paid, and
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, Liao,
yeah,
if you don't pay Liao, we're gonna pay Igor.
right, right. And one thing I wanted to add to your layout point: when you see the amount of money Arsenal is giving Bukayo Saka,
Yeah.
and you put it in context with what Milan is going to be paying Leao, to me that is a testament of the atmosphere that is being created in AC Milan. I think we're starting to find some of what made us special in the 2000s, in the 90s, and the 80s. Because if a player like Leao could just throw his resume in the middle of the streets in England, and
Oh
he
yeah.
would get a $10 million offer in four
Tomorrow.
to seven minutes,
Yeah.
it would be done like it would be immediate. And the fact that he's signing, and I understand that there's a little gray area with the fine and the 20 million and who's paying what. Well, I don't think we'll ever know, because you know how it is.
Yeah.
But still, it's a €5 million contract a year. I think it's a steal for us. I do think that Leao in 2 or 3 years will probably leave, because we won't be able to pay what he's worth. And if you really love the kid, you're like, yeah, give us 2 more years. That's our window. And then go get your money. Go get your money. Set your family right. Set your grandchildren right. And you're gonna have a short career. Maximize your earning power, and it doesn't have to be a novel like with Donnarumma or whatever. It's just the way life works, and we have to be okay with it as fans.
Of course. Now, but to conclude this topic and move to the last topic of the day, I just wanted to say that Lea was unfortunate that the fine was in Portugal, because if he got the fine in Italy, it would have probably been of $70. Considering that when you hide money and when you falsify your balance sheet, all you get is a $700,000 fine. So unfortunately, the fine for Lea was in Portugal.
Yeah, you get a slap on the wrist, and don't do that again, because
Yeah,
next time we're not gonna do anything. But
yeah.
next time after that one, we're still not gonna do anything. You're gonna
No,
be fine.
that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. It's like
Mind blowing.
they find the like literally the fine they got for falsifying the balance sheets and doing all of these things is like for me getting a $7 late fee on an invoice. It's like
It's
it,
a
it-
slap. It's a slap on the wrist on Juve, and it's a slap on the face of everybody else.
it's a slap
Because
on the face of Italian soccer, because
yes,
how can people take us from like seriously, with things like that happening? But man, it's not the first time and probably won't be the last.
yeah,
We're gonna
it won't be the last. I
well,
find it fascinating because I was I was in touch with a lot of Juventus fan because I'm a masochist that way, and they were really nervous about this second procedure.
But do you know what the law says in Italy? That if you did what you did, let's say Juventus, I say that I use the
Yeah,
word hit because
I-
I don't know the technical terms.
yeah,
If they hit 1 million, the minimum fine is three times that amount. The minimum fine.
yes,
They hit something like 70 million, 100 million, and they got fined $700,000. So
yeah,
it's like they made money out of that transaction at the end
yeah.
of the day.
It's basically a stimulus.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a stimulus. Hey, you had 100 million. You give us 700,000. We'll be
We are good
good.
to go. We are good to
We're
go.
good.
But
Yeah.
anyway, last topic, Igor, that I wanted to cover was Pioli. So, a lot of people have criticized Pioli, and the main point of critique are the fact that he never changed the style of play, the fact that he didn't use the subs, the fact that he was slow reacting to issues this year with the team. But to one point, I don't want to focus on the issues. I want to tackle this discussion from another standpoint. The other night I was like sitting watching TV and I was like, let me think like Pioli, right? I have Leao and I got Rebic that by the way wasn't called up because for the last game we played because he wasn't putting effort in the pitch. We have Origi that after 40 seconds you heard Pioli screaming, Divock, wake up after 40 seconds from entering the pitch. You have the Catalar that pretty much didn't do nothing. Then
We've
you have
covered him.
yeah, then you have Diaz, which did decently, but he was like he played it as a trequartista, sometimes on the right, but he was trying to do something with him, but it didn't perform really consistently. Then you have Salamakers and Messias, which they did their best, but that's what they did, right? Then you have Krunic, Tonali, Benacer, they all played well this year, I feel. Maybe we can criticize him for not using Adli as much, but with all the things I mentioned, Adli probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference. Like because Lichard is not the kind of player that is gonna be like the Cravascalia for AC Milan. He would play better probably than the Catalan, but that's it, right? So my question to and by the way, he had Giroud and no subs because originally he said what he did. Ibrahimovic was broken all year. So my question is, did maybe Pioli actually did a good job with what he was given? Because honestly, once I told you everybody on the on the roster for that forward position, and you come back to Liao, Giroud, Brahim Diaz, and Salamagero Messias, there is nothing else. Did he? Are we over criticizing a guy that literally didn't have alternatives?
Oh, Rocco, you're asking a lot from me right now. But I have many alter egos in this platform, and but here's I usually reserve my more serious face for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a departure from what I do. Here's what I will say about Pioli. Okay, I think that when all of these players that you mentioned, I think none of what you said is inaccurate. Everything is on point, right? You could actually make the argument, a realistic argument, that Messias and Salma Cares, for what they are,
They
performed really
overperform.
well. Yes, for what they are, they overperform. But here's what I will say: you cannot leave out of that equation what we are defensively, because I think defensively what we have is 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 pretty solid, a pretty solid squad. We have Theo, who's one of the best. We have Tomori. We have Cho. I don't have to name all the defenders. We have, I think, a top five, top 10 defense in the world. Okay, so my criticism of Pioli was always, you as a coach, you have to create an environment where all of your players, or at least most of your players, are involved in the team. And part of that is you as a player, if you've played any sport, any team sport, I'm sorry, and you are on the bench, the one thing that keeps you alive is the hope that one day you might overtake the starter. Now I understand Revich, where he looks at Leao and he's like, "No, I'm cooked here. There's nothing I can do here." And Revich he's a bit of a loose cannon, and once he sees that he has a top five left winger in front of him, he's basically he checks out, and that's what he did because Revic was the guy. I remember when we played Atalanta, he had the phone and he was looking at other games. He was committed to the team. When he was committed to the team, he was producing a lot. But once he saw the writing on the wall, he was out. So what I think Pioli did really wrong this year was he did not find a way to keep a lot of the players. I agree with you. We're not gonna be in the finals and top two if Adli had played well. But if all the players are involved, if a player looks at say Giroud and thinks if I score goals, I could overtake him.
But
That
Igor, let me give you a few examples here, right? Because I agree the defense is great, but keep in mind that if the defense doesn't have a shield, the first line of defense is the attack. And that means that if we do not have strikers that are going to, or middle fielder are going to shield you, your defense is going to suffer a lot. That's a
right,
fact.
right.
But let me give you some points of analysis. Kier, Chao, Kalulu, Gabbia, and Tomori. They all had their role this year. Gabbia, he scored the goal in the Champions League that made us qualify for the eight finals. He scored a goal, Gabbia. Very good goal. I think it was the first goal against the Red Bull team.
Okay,
He scored a header. And he played when he was needed. He used him at the beginning of the season. Kalulu, Chao, Tomori, and Kier, they all played. And actually, he rotated them based on who he thought was best for the team. Theo Hernandez. Theo Hernandez, during key matches, he was taken out and Ballo-Touré played. Against Juventus, for example, uh, Theo played and Ballo-Touré played. But of course, if you can, you will have like Theo play the most games, right? On the right, Calabria was the starter. Dest and Florenzi. Dest, he was given opportunities. He completely fucked them over, right? Look at Milan Naples when he removed Calabria at the end of the first half because he had the yellow card. He put Dest in. He gave the kid an opportunity. He didn't put Kalulu on the right. He put Dest.
right.
So the rotations actually did happen. Bakayoko got playing time. The players that didn't rotate, and that's where I think I'm not trying to defend him, I'm just trying to do an analysis. The players that did not rotate this year are essentially Vranks, Pobega, didn't play much, Adli, and pretty much that's it. These are three players out of the whole roster that didn't rotate enough. And why didn't they rotate? Probably he didn't consider them adaptive, but there are three players. Because I have a feeling that when we talk about Pioli doesn't rotate the team, that we think it's like 10 players. Now we are talking about a 90-year-old midfielder, a midfielder that this year Pobega, when he was having his peak, he got injured and then he just came back, and a 21-year-old attacking midfielder, right? So I think it's very important to break down the fact of what rotation he did and what he did not. And there are three players that he did rotate the whole season.
Okay. And look, as fans, we tend to overreact to small sample sizes.
Yeah.
Like that's
No,
that's
I
the
just
thing.
wanted to point it out because, it's very typical that we say, oh, it doesn't rotate the players. I do think that the issue is deeper. I do think that the issue that the player he had didn't match his playing style. Pioli is not Guardiola. Pioli is not gonna reshuffle and change
Right.
style of play. Pioli plays with the 4-2-3-1, and
Yeah.
this year he didn't have the players to do a
Didn't work.
4-2-3-1.
Right. But to your point, one of the biggest problems is that we don't have appropriate subs. when you look at, let me give you an example for Inter, right? You look at Inter's midfield. The only player that does not have a sub is Barella because, well, it's Barella. And listen, I don't like him the way he plays. I don't like, but he's a beast. He's a monster. He's a great player. But you look at Chalanoglu and you look at Mkhitaryan, you have very similar players.
Yeah.
You look at or what's the other guy? You look at Brozovic, and he also I'm blanking on the other play on the because Barella doesn't have a start because Gagliardini is trash.
Well,
But
they have Aslani. Inter has only, in reality, Inter only has three subs. One as a striker, one
right,
in the middle field, and one in defense. Where they have Di Marco, they have Lukaku in the bench, and they have, I believe, either one between Brozovic and Mkhitaryan. These are the subs. The difference is that Inter, the style of play they have, really doesn't get along with the style of play we have this year. Last
right,
year was a different story.
right. But if we lose Tonali, we don't have a lesser Tonali.
Of course, that's one
That's
of
the point.
that's
If we
one of,
lose Benacer, like who do you have who
but
can
that's why we're going back to my point at the beginning, right?
right,
It doesn't, like, is it really Pioli's fault, or did he do the best he had with the team that he has available? Because again, you turn on the bench and you have Rebic, Origi, the Catelar, you have Branks, you have Bakayoko. You literally get to the point that we started at the beginning. He didn't rotate three players. The rest, they all played and they didn't perform, right?
right. But yeah, the thing with Pioli is that uh I think you have two different questions, and it's interesting because we over criticize Pioli. It's not all his fault. That's obvious. Like what percentage of fault can you place on Pioli? And I think that's going to vary depending on who you ask. Some people might give him 20, 30, 40%. I tend to land or somewhere between 25 and 30%, because they're the market last year, the players we brought in, I don't think anyone can defend that transfer market.
Yeah.
If you defend that transfer market, I think you're probably for rooting for another team. But uh, you have that, and then you have the players themselves, and then you have ownership, and I think everybody has a little bit of there's a lot of blame to share. And unfortunately, the problem with the coach is that the old adage, it's easier to change one guy than to sell 10 players and buy 10 new players. But
Yeah.
that's what we're going to do this year.
I think, to be honest with you, Igor, I feel very confident with the current ownership of Milan, because I think they realized that they gave somebody the wrong tools to do his job.
Yes.
And that takes a lot of guts to recognize, because you are basically assuming the responsibility for what you gave a coach. And honestly, I never said it publicly, but I was scared that AC Milan wouldn't make the Champions League this year.
Oh, I was
Even
terrified.
I was terrified in November when I saw that how the players were performing, because I'm like, you do not have alternatives. You don't have style of plays, right? So I do think that, although I would like Guardiola or Klopp at AC Milan, I do think that what we achieved with what it was given to him does deserve a second chance to the guy. Because honestly, I would like to see me or you coach that team with those players, and let's
No, I
see
would
how
not.
far.
I would not. I would not. I would not. I would not. It's. I understand what you're saying. And I think where I end up is basically, I don't think, regardless of how we got there, if you're fourth and you made the semifinals, you can't justify sacking a coach. Like unless there's like
Other
internal
issues, yeah.
problems. Yeah, then you don't touch that. That's
Let's say
fine.
let's say unless you threaten the referee after a final and then have the
Right.
supporter throw chair at him, yeah.
Yeah. It's a disgrace, man. Yeah. Anyway, I think Pioli, he should get next year, but I think he should be on a bit of a short leash.
Yeah, yeah, of
Uh,
course. There is no
I
question about that.
I think Maldini and Masara have a lot to answer for, and I know it's a bit of sacrilege, but I do think that they might be under evaluation. They probably are, especially whatever they do this mercato. I think, yeah, their jobs are. I think they're on the hot seat, and I don't have a problem with this ownership yet, but I think they're doing things fine. I think what Milan is doing, as a, I saw yesterday's video for the new jersey, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was just
By the
fantastic.
way, CDK was in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That tells a lot. But Igor, like,
yeah.
you need to understand that tomorrow everybody criticizes CDK, but as I always say, he can break his first record at AC Milan tomorrow. Tomorrow he has the possibility to score the most goals in a season he has ever scored at AC Milan. So there is always hope.
There's always tomorrow. There's always hope. I had really big hopes for the kid. Those hopes are now smaller, but they're still there. And
All I'm
uh,
telling you is that he could be a Gurkuf, but he can also be a Thierry Henry. You never
no,
know. So
yeah,
you need to make sure that if you take a decision on the guy, you take the right decision.
right,
Because,
right.
for example, on Paqueta, I feel that AC Milan took the best decision for the team, right? Because Paqueta has gone to West Ham, but or Lyon, but it has been a player you're not gonna miss.
Yes,
You want to make sure that if you do the same with the Catalar, you do take the right decision. And so far, all I can say is that Maldini, when it comes to selling those players, is taking the right decision because Piontek, I'm not missing him. Although he looked like the new like I don't know, new goal scoring
yeah.
Shevchenko version.
He had the best goal scoring celebration ever. That's the
Yeah,
only thing I miss.
but it
But
did
the guy,
play well for 6 months. He did a lot of goals. Like he did start incredibly well and then disappeared.
I think
So
his problem was, and real quick, a mentality issue. Because when you're 24 years old and they bring Ibrahimovic as a 38-year-old, and you don't see that as an opportunity to grow your game, to understand, to learn from one of the best of all time, and just say after a month, oh, I've been waiting patiently, but I want to play the World Cup. I think we did fine. I agree with you. We don't miss those players. I think the Ketelare with that size, if he can find and that speed, if he can find his rhythm, he could be a very
yeah,
interesting
so
player
like
for us.
all I'm saying is that there are players that start well, like Piontek, because after the first 6 months of Piontek, I want to find a single AC Milan supporter that didn't want to let him sign a 10-year contract to the guy,
Right.
right? But on the other side of the medal, on the call, we are going to know that we have players that might take some time to play. And here we get the best news of the day our for our episode conclusion. Uh, Liao renewed until 2028, and there should be a celebration itself.
Yes, yes, that's great news. Even I mean, once you see the picture, once you see the official news, you can really bask in re-signing our best player. Congratulations to AC Milan. Congratulations to Leao.
And there is a little asterisk at the bottom that said we also bought Brahim Diaz, but they put it in very small letters at the bottom of the contract.
No, I know you, Rocco. You're a bit of a prankster. I will not fall.
Fair enough, Igor. But thank you so much for joining, Igor.
It's
Tomorrow,
always a pleasure.
make sure not to fall asleep during Milan Verona because there is a very high likelihood of falling asleep during that game.
Listen, it's a benchmark game for the Ketelare. He might actually break his own record.
One
So
goal in the Serie A, right?
that one goal, he it might tear it up for him.
It
Thank
would
you
be
for
fun.
having me.
It would be fun if he scores his first goal in the last
Oh,
game
I
of
would
the
love it. I would love it because he deserves it. I mean, no, he's 21 and he's been under so much pressure and stress that if he can finish the season on, even if it's one of those ugly goals, I don't care. I think it's gonna help him a lot, and I'm always rooting for Milan players to succeed.
Thank you so much again, Igor. Next week, we're going to talk about other interesting things. Hopefully, we are going to talk about Kamada becoming a player of AC Milan. Let's cross our fingers. We really need talent in this team. But, Igor, thank you. Go Panthers tonight. We need to win the
Panther
first of
pride.
here in America, guys. The finals are 7 games. It's a little bit stressful, but
It's all about capitalism.
and,
Why have one game when you can have seven?
I was telling one of my friends, he was complaining about the ticket prices. I was like, here, a final is 7 games. At each game, you're gonna spend $1,000 if you wanna see
Yeah.
the game.
I was looking at floor seats ticket price for the Heat. They're on the final too, and each seat in the floor level was $18,000. I don't know if you got that. $18,000. So if you want to bring a date, you're gonna have to spend thirty-six
Oh,
thousand dollars.
that's when being single might be an advantage. Don't tell my wife how much they
Absolutely.
cost, so I don't need to go there.
Oh man, Rocco, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. It's always fun
Well,
to talk to you, talk Milan.
sounds good, man. Take care.
All right.